I'm fascinated by Augustine. Some of you might refer to him as Saint Augustine. Augustine lived in the 4th century, and he went through a pretty significant spiritual transformation that led him to be a leader in the Christian church. And even those who don't espouse the Christian faith, they don't hold to the tenets of the Christian faith, often find a lot of great wisdom and insight in Augustine's writing. He was a brilliant mind, or North African man with great insight, and his Confessions, which is his autobiography, Augustine's Confessions, have some really powerful insights. And so I've drawn 5 quotes out of here that I think can help lead us toward clearer and better thinking, and lead to a kind of mindset and a disposition that lends itself toward problem solving and clear thinking, and that virtual and literal treasure hunting that's sort of the theme of this channel. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at some of the quotes that we have here. And of course, I will say this, that there's a famous quote that points to this kind of linchpin moment in Augustine's life, where he was really getting caught up in a lot of things that weren't particularly helpful for him. And he did, when he came to his Christian faith, there was a line that many people refer to where he said that it's a prayer where he's speaking to God, and he says, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee." And by that, he's talking about this idea of that we are designed to be in a relationship with our Creator, and that there's almost like a hole in our heart that's empty until it finds that kind of, it's filled. That's actually comes from a different thinker who used that very specific metaphor, Pascal, who I'll actually have another video on. But I share that just because I do think that Augustine's approach to clear thinking did take off when he came to this place where he came to realize that his worth was not found in his own intellectual abilities or achievements, but it was found outside of himself, in his faith in a God who declared him to be of immense worth. And that led to a lot of other things. But this channel, I don't tend to get into really heavy theological things, but I will say that approaching clear thinking and problem solving, especially when there's risk involved, changes pretty significantly when you don't feel like your whole worth is on the line, whether you succeed or fail, but you have something that's bigger and more important that you hold on to, regardless of whether everything else in life falls apart. And that can lead to a bolder, more courageous kind of truth seeker and treasure hunter in a way. So let's go ahead and take a look, though, at 5 quotes that I've drawn out that I think you can find useful for clear thinking, and again, that figurative and literal treasure hunting in life. First one is this. It's from book 10 in his Confessions, and books are the sections of the book, what we call his Confessions. "Late have I loved you, beauty so ancient and so new, late have I found you." Now, this is a kind of prayer that he's speaking to God, but it also has another element here that I'm drawing out for our purposes, which is that he was a late bloomer, in a sense, that he came to his most important discovery, this understanding of these most important truths, a little later in his life. And so he acknowledges this, that it's later in life that I came to this great spiritual treasure. But he has come to it. And I share that simply because a lot of times people have this impression that if you don't start early, if I hadn't done this when I was young and kind of cultivated my mind or my skills or my habits, that it's too late. And I just don't accept that. I see that there are a lot of people who began very, very bold adventures and solved significant problems and pursued figurative and literal treasures later in their lives, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. And that happens regularly enough that I think it's pretty certain that it's achievable, that it can be done, that we can learn at any stage in our life, that it's not too late to learn something new, to develop new skills, new observational skills, clear thinking skills. Many people think that, it's all downhill once you reach a certain age, that your mind starts to fade. And even me, recording this in my 50s, I have noticed that my memory, it takes a little bit longer for me to memorize some things, but I can still memorize large chunks. And in fact, even though it may take me longer, I memorize more things now than I might have 10 years ago. The second is, he wrote, I was in love with loving. So it's easy to chase after emotions and experiences without really ever finding the real thing. That he was in love with sort of the emotion and the experience of it. And this is something that I think can be valuable as well when we're going about truth-seeking and treasure hunting, to actually pursue the real thing and not just the feeling of the real thing. And although it's great to have joy along the journey also. Third one that I'll share with you is this quote: people travel to wonder at the heights of mountains, but they pass by themselves without wondering. And so they travel to wonder the heights of the mountains, but they pass by themselves without wondering. So it's easy to kind of have awe and wonder, and to ask questions, to wonder, to ponder the things that we see beyond. Like, I wonder how that happened. Or you ponder sort of the meaning, significance of something out in nature, whatever it might be. And he's pointing out here, though, that there's also a lot of merit in doing some wondering about ourselves, because it's in it, and he's by far not a person who says that your life's core meaning is by going inward and discovering. It's actually external to us in Augustine's thinking and worldview belief system. But there is value in acknowledging that we can do some work on ourselves, that we can cultivate clearer thinking, we can work on different ways to think clearly and to solve problems and to pursue truth, and that can benefit us, and it can allow us to see things beyond ourselves a little bit better and clearer too. And so I mentioned that one in terms of its value in sort of the truth-seeking, treasure hunting world. And by the way, for those of you who are listening and have a particular theological bent, I'm not talking about this as a kind of doctrinal theological claim here, as much as I'm just talking about kind of the thinking lessons that we can extract from these along the way too. And the next one that I'll give is this. So the fourth one is, I became to myself a vast problem. And this is a great quote where he came to realize his shortfalls, his limitations, his contradictions, that he had challenges. And if you look at some of my other videos, it's why I have so many videos on logical fallacies and why I have videos on cognitive biases, that there's real merit in recognizing our limitations and our flaws and our tendency to certain kinds of mistakes, because we are prone to them, even the way sort of our brain works oftentimes. And so learning about them and then developing some skills and some habits that help you work through them and navigate them when you're trying to solve problems or navigate different truths or discover those treasures. So that one I think is really valuable. It's a reminder that if you work on those skills, they can help you sort of see things beyond yourself better, more clearly sometimes. And then the last one that I'll share is, the truth dwells within the heart that turns toward you. And this again is a prayer. And Augustine, it's a reminder that from his worldview, the treasure is not within. It's not just about kind of going inside and discovering something, that there is a truth that is beyond us, and there's a humility that comes beyond that. Now, he had a real theological point in this, but I'm just going to take it down to just sort of an earthly realm here and acknowledge that this is part of why I like the treasure hunt motif and theme in society today, is because treasures are beyond us. When you're hunting a treasure or you're trying to discover a truth, it's not just making up what you want to be true. It's discovering what is objectively there and not there, what is really true and what's not true. And I do believe that is something that we've lost sight of sometimes in society, and we've gotten overly focused upon what we want to be true and what we feel inside And I'm not saying that has no merit, but we've lost sight of the fact that some of the greatest treasures are out there to be seen and to be discovered, to be seen, to be appreciated, to be celebrated. And so that's a fundamental skill of anyone who wants to be a good treasure hunter or truth seeker or problem solver, is to realize that we have to get our eyes away from ourselves and onto and looking and observing and looking beyond ourselves. So I hope you find this useful. I look forward to your comments.